Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Joe, Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue. On today's video, I'm gonna smoke up a Texas-style brisket using nothing but salt and pepper on my Yoder Frontiersman. Stay tuned. All right, so what we're starting with is a 17-pound USDA prime brisket. And before I start to trim the brisket, I'm going to show you the mixture that I use. I've got a little bit of salt and pepper mix here, but I think I'm going to need a little bit more. So I use 2/3 pepper and 1/3 salt. This is 1/4 cup. Don't want to make a mess here. Just like that. So I'm putting 2 1/4 cups in. This is my 2/3. Doesn't have to be exact. Just like that. And then 1 1/4 cup of salt. Okay, once you have that, shake your bottle really good, roll it, get it all mixed up in there. I keep this labeled S&P, that's just salt and pepper. Give it a good mix. So you can see the consistency here. You can see the consistency there through the bottle. Okay, nothing but salt and pepper. All right, so let's get to trimming this brisket. Again, this is a 17-pound USDA prime. I always like to start with this huge piece of fat here. Just trim that off, just so that the brisket is nice and smooth. A little bit more here. Now this type of cook is what you're going to find in a lot of Texas barbecue restaurants. A lot of them claim to use nothing but salt and pepper. But I don't know. That's a secret that they hold, I think. Now I did go to Franklin Barbecue and I was talking to Aaron Franklin, and when I was talking to him, we were pretty close to his kitchen, to his prep kitchen. And the guys were actually prepping briskets for the next day. And I did see containers of nothing but salt and pepper, so something tells me that Franklin Barbecue is using nothing but salt and pepper. So just taking a little bit, some of this heavier fat pockets on the top of the flat here. Not going to get too crazy with it. That silver skin that you see, I'm not too worried about it. This fat seam, what you don't want to do is start to carve in, because I can take this out. But what's going to happen is I'm going to have a channel here, and the brisket's just going to look a little funny. So I'll take a little bit off, but just to the point where it's even with the meat. Okay, so I'm not going to dig too much into this. Take a little bit more of this decal fat off. That's looking really good. Okay, liking that. I like to trim the edges. This is a really nice thick brisket. Look at this. I got really lucky with this brisket. The last brisket that I got from Costco, you know, there wasn't a whole lot left, so I got what I got. So I'm going to trim this edge here. You can see that's a little bit darker here. So I'm just going to trim just a little bit. Try not to take a whole lot of that meat off. Probably 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of that meat right there. Just to start with a good, fresh surface. And I can also tell how thick that fat cap on the other side is going to be. Now I saved my brisket trimmings because I will be making sausage one of these days. So you can see how thick the flat is. And the fat is probably about 1/2 inch. So I know how much I want to take off there. So also going to take a little bit off this front edge here. Again, I like to start with a nice clean edge all the way around the brisket. Looking good. Let me take some of this fat off here, a little bit more. Now I like to round my briskets off because, again, as the smoke travels around the brisket, you want it to be as smooth as possible. So even like this piece of meat here, I'm going to take that off. Just round it off. Okay, take this fat off here. Again, you want the smoke transition to be as smooth as possible. Okay, this looks good. Take a little bit of this fat off here. Okay, let's turn it over and take a look at that fat cap. All right, so I want to cook this fat cap down. Now, if I were to leave this on there, the brisket's not going to sit flat on the smoker, on the grate of my smoker. So I like to massage this out as much as possible. Okay, just like that. And I know that I'm going to have to trim a good section of this in order to get my brisket to lay flat. That exposes a little bit of the point meat, but that's okay. Here's some more fat. Again, massage it. Make sure you massage your brisket so it lays flat as much as possible anyway. Take this fat off of this point here. Try to keep the edges as round as possible. Okay, so here, again, I have about half an inch of fat. And this is a big hunk of fat right here. So I'm just going to trim this down a little bit. I'm going to turn it so I can get to it a little bit more, but still you guys are able to see what I'm doing here. Again, keep the brisket as round as possible. A little bit more. You can see how I kind of curve my knife there. That's what you want. Now, if you get into that point meat, don't worry about it. You will get a little window, but I can almost see the meat through the fat here. So I got to be careful not to dig or take too much of the fat off. Okay, just like that. A little bit more fat here. Keep your knife as flat as possible. Just run it along the edge here. Okay, that's looking really good. I've got about, let me take a little bit more off of right here. All right, so you can see the fat cap is nice and smooth now. And I got about 1/4 inch of fat. Let me turn this so you guys can see it. This is a heavy brisket, good thick flat there. So you guys can see how much fat is left. I'm not gonna bother too much with this fat here. That looks good. Just trim this up a little bit more. Yeah, that'll render. Now on this side, I do have this pocket of fat right here. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little bit off of that. And this brisket is nice and cold. This brisket has never been frozen. but I keep my fridge temperature really low. And I like to trim my briskets when they're nice and cold like this. Okay, so that looks good there. Actually, that's all I'm going to do. Real simple backyard trim. Okay, so let's add the salt and pepper. Give it one more mix here. And again, as I mentioned, I'm going to cook this or smoke this in my Yoder Frontiersman with the fat cap down. So I'm going to rub the fat cap first. You guys can see how much salt and pepper I'm going to apply to the brisket. It's quite a bit. It's a big piece of meat. No binders needed. Again, this is going to be your bark builder, okay? So add enough. I can see the granules of salt and pepper. It's looking good. Cover up that brisket completely, excuse me. Some might think that this is a lot, but it's not, trust me. You're fine. In fact, I know that there's restaurants that scoop the salt and pepper out in a big cup and just pour it all over the brisket. It comes out amazing. Okay. Get your edges. Just kind of glide your hand on the edges like this while you're sprinkling the rub. Push down on it. And let's get that flat side. Get the edge first, and get the flat. All right, I'm going to season the rest of this brisket, and I'll see you guys outside, so stay tuned. All right, so we're outside of the Yoder Frontiersman, and my temps are at 325 on both the top right and bottom right gauges. So let's put the brisket in. I'm going to be cooking this on the top grate with the point facing that firebox. That's where the heat is coming from. Okay, so just like that, right in the middle of the grate. Again, there's the salt and pepper. And I do have a water pan over here on the right side up against the wall. It's completely filled. So let's close this lid. Just like that. Now to start the pit, I did start with a basket of Kingsford blue charcoal. And I put 3 splits of wood just to warm up the smoker. And I just dropped another big split of wood. So it took about an hour or so to get my temperatures to settle in. And I just dropped that one big split about 10 minutes ago now. So that should be good for about an hour. I'm anticipating this cook is going to be probably 7, maybe 8 hours. Now this brisket is a little bit thick, so it might take a little bit longer, but I am going to cook it hot and fast at 325 degrees. I won't check on this brisket for probably an hour. At that point, I'll come back, and if my bark is set, because I'm cooking at a high temperature, I'll go ahead and spritz with apple cider vinegar and water. So stay tuned. All right, so we're 1 hour into the cook. Let's take a look at this brisket. Oh yeah, that bark's not set yet. It's getting there. We're about probably 30 minutes from that bark setting. It's just about there. So, but I'm going to give it another hour or so. So we'll check back in about an hour. Stay tuned. All right, so we're 2 hours into the cook now, and temperature's maintaining 325. I just dropped one more split of wood. Take a look at the brisket. Oh yeah. So now, let me see if I can zoom you guys in a little bit more. There we go. So now you can see the bark is set. What do I mean by that is the rub, or the salt and pepper in this case, is created a bark on the outside of that brisket. Okay, so at this point, you can go ahead and spritz. I'm going to spritz the back part first. Then go ahead and spritz the top. Now, if you notice the brisket, it got swollen. Okay, got real fat. It popped. That's what we call that. Me and my friend Chris, we call that when the brisket does this, it pops. It got real hot real fast, so it almost shocks the brisket, if you will. So that's why it's nice and puffy like that. And this is what happens when you cook hot and fast. The brisket will do this. It'll puff up on you. So it's just a characteristic of hot and fast cooks. And yes, you saw how much spritz I put on there. I spritz a lot. Okay, on my briskets, I often get asked that question. If I spritz, and the answer is yes, I spritz a lot. Okay, so this is the first time I spritz on this cook 2 hours in, and I am using apple cider vinegar and water. I'll leave a link to a website where you can buy this sprayer as well. I often get asked where I get this sprayer, where I bought this sprayer from. I actually bought this one at Proud Souls Barbecue up in Denver. So if I have any subscribers from Denver, you can go by Proud Souls and get that sprayer. If not, I'll leave a link to a website where you can buy this sprayer. So 2 hours into the cook now. Probably going to come back every 30 minutes now and apply the equal amount of spritz. Maintaining my temperatures again at 325. About the 4th hour or so, I'm going to move that brisket over to the left side. So we'll see you guys back in 2 hours. At that point, it'll be a total of 4 hours cook time. So stay tuned. All right, so we're at the 4-hour mark now, and my brisket has the color that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it and wrap it. Here it is. Look at that color. It's got a nice bark to it. Let's go ahead and check an internal temperature. So I'm at 169, about 170. Okay, and that's perfect. I got the nice dark bark that I want. Ooh, the juices are pouring out of there. So I'm just going to spritz this. I'm not going to put any other liquid other than some of the spritz. Again, this is apple cider vinegar and water. Just add enough. Go ahead and wet the entire butcher paper. Okay. Go ahead and center that on your paper there. And let's wrap it. You can buy this butcher paper at yodersmokers.com. Looks good and it works good. So there we go. So my fat cap is still down. Now I'm going to put this brisket back in on the left side of the smoker on the top. So stay tuned. All right, so let's put the brisket back in. And again, this is going to go on the top left side of my smoker with the fat cap down still and the point facing the exhaust now, because it does get hotter right in the middle. It does get hotter on this left side of my smoker, so therefore the point is now facing my exhaust. So at 170, again, we're 4 hours in, probably 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. I'll be checking the temperature about every hour or so, so stay tuned. All right, so we're at the 6-hour mark on the brisket, and I'm gonna go ahead and get a internal temperature. So I'm at 190, but it's still not proven tender. Okay, still a little bit of resistance even at 190. So I'm going to give that, I just put another split of wood. I'm going to give that another 30 minutes or so. I'm going to come back and probe it and see if it's tender. So stay tuned. All right, so 6 hours and 45 minutes into the cook. Let's take a look at the brisket. Oh yeah, it's probing like butter. Just in case you guys are wondering, the temperature is at 197.5 degrees. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull it, put it in a foil pan, and put it inside my Cambro for at least an hour. Then we'll come back and slice it. So stay tuned. All right, our brisket is ready, and the total cook time was 6 hours and 45 minutes. Again, the temperature was about 325, 300, sometimes 340. So in that range, and it was done in 6 hours and 45 minutes, and it looks amazing. Let's slice into it. All right, so I'm just gonna get a couple of slices off the edge here. I can tell you right now, there's a really nice smoke ring on this brisket here. It's still really hot. This is a really, really thick brisket, guys. It's still really juicy. One more slice here. Look at this. That hang test. Pretty crazy, right? Good smoke ring. This is the flat portion that I'm starting to get into the point. So I'm going to get the rest of this sliced. In fact, I'm just going to take slices probably up to here. Then I'm going to turn it and slice that point. We'll be back with a taste test. All right, I've got the brisket sliced up. Let's give it a try. See what we think here. Look at this. That hang test is beautiful. The pull test is good. I've got some au jus over here. Actually, I'm going to try a piece without the au jus first. See how we did there. Good smoke flavor. That is really good. Gonna try the au jus. Nice and juicy. Man, that is full of flavor. Salt and pepper. I would probably add some garlic, some granulated garlic next time. It's not bad, not bad. This is the first time that I do a brisket with only salt and pepper, and I've cooked a ton of briskets, okay? The flavor is really good. The smoke ring is really pronounced on the brisket, as you can see. The flavor is good, but it's lacking something, and I think that a little bit of garlic would be ideal for this brisket. So here's that point. You can see that, still hot, good smoke ring. I'm gonna give this point a try. A lot of people like the point. A lot of people prefer the point over the flat. And I think it's good too. Just take some of this fat off of here. I know a lot of you guys are probably, hey, leave it on there, fat is flavor. No, a little bit is. There we go. Really juicy, really tender. Again, it's lacking something. It's good, but if I did this again, I would do a SPG, excuse me. Salt, pepper, garlic. Same mixture with the salt and pepper because that's perfect, but probably a quarter of a cup of garlic powder. And I think that would take this brisket to the next level. So salt and pepper is good. I'm not saying this is bad. I like it, but salt, pepper, and garlic next time. I think you could still take that as a Texas brisket because it's got the majority of salt and pepper. Just adding a little bit of garlic powder to that mix, and I think you'll be good. Hope you guys like this video. Give it a shot. Tell me what you think. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Till next time, Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue. See ya.